Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers, friends of Ikra TV. Welcome to the third part of this special edition of Real Talk. I've been talking to a very dear friend of mine, somebody who's a very, very important person in our lives, all of us, because what she says and what she does and the way she runs the police service has an impact on everyone's lives who lives in West Yorkshire. So she is a person that we all have to respect very highly. I've always respected her. She's a champion of justice and equality and diversity. She wanted to make sure, and she does make sure, that everybody who lives in the West Yorkshire area and around the district and the country as well receives the best of fairness and treatment that the institutions and other organisations and the public has to give to each other. Allison Lowe has been on my programme today. We've been talking about policing and her role as a police and crime commissioner. She's explained what that is and how that impacts on people's lives. And then we were turning to what happened in Manchester, unfortunately, last week at the airport, and everybody will have seen the videos that emerged. And as Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, said previously, right from the beginning, that people have been making judgments about what happened, the police, the way they behaved, but we need to see the whole picture. Regardless of that, Allison also agrees with me, and like many people, that the actual incident of the stamping on the head of that young man is totally uncalled for, unacceptable, and that was that was over the top. Now we know that one of the officers has been suspended, and this is subject to a huge inquiry. But before we went on for the break, we talked about reputational damage to the policing, not just to the Great Manchester Police, but also policing in general. Now, I'm not sure whether this had any impact on you. I know, as I said, this has got nothing to do with you, but in your role as the chief, lead in the APCC, the Association of Police Crime Commissioners, have you had the opportunity to talk about this, particularly in light of some of the political commentary that is they've written on the back of this? People like Lee Anderson and other people who made some absolutely damaging remarks without having the full facts before them.
Yes.
You know, I mean, have you had the chance to talk about this, and what sort of response will the APCC want to make to people like Lee Anderson and people like Tommy Robinson, you know, who's always jumping on the bandwagon? I mean, he tried to come to Leeds as well on the back of what happened, but you know, he didn't get much traction, did he?
No, he didn't get any
in the
traction,
community,
no.
yeah, and that's happened many, many times. What I mean, as in your role wearing the hat of the PCC lead on equality diversity, how did you react when you see people like Lee Anderson and others making those horrendous comments?
Well, he's a fool. He's a fool, and I have to say that I don't spend a lot of time worrying about fools.
Well, I don't blame you.
And ultimately, it's a matter for you know, that county to deal with. We'll deal with our matters here in West Yorkshire. But anybody who breaks the law, and that could be the King of England, it could be me, it could be you, whoever it is, they have to face the consequences of their actions, because that's why we live in the UK, where we know that we've got a criminal justice system that is supposed to hold everyone to the same standard. And so that is what the public wants to see. They want to see anyone committing crimes being held to the same standard and facing the same justice system. And that's what I'm confident will be happening in the coming weeks and months.
What do you say to people who say that, in their opinion, there is a disparity in the way policing is done for people of colour and people who are white? You know, there's this genuine fear in our communities across the nation that they feel that the police, you know, do not treat people equally. Now, obviously, that is a serious issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know race disparities exist. They do exist.
You know, I mean, the watershed moment came following the Macpherson report, the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, Macpherson report, the recommendations that came out of it. And I sat on the Stephen Lawrence group after the report came out, and I feel that we seem to have gone backwards. There was a time where we made huge progress. I mean, Peter Fahey, Sir Peter Fahey, who was the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, took that force quite a long way forward. But subsequently, it seems like we've had a number of incidents, the secret policeman, where the racism was endemic to a certain extent. And recently, these incidents. I mean, these things don't help build that relationship between the police and the communities. So how do you and your colleagues will view that situation? How would you like to see it addressed both by the police service and by the communities?
So anything that impacts on the trust and confidence of the public in policing is a matter of concern for all of us. And of course, we talk about that amongst ourselves, about what the lessons are, what we can all do together to prevent that from happening in the future. As the lead, then I will incorporate that learning into the training, into the challenge that we bring to our police scrutiny role, for example, and those lessons are embedded in the framework and the toolkit that we develop at the APCC to help other PCCs in their holding to account responsibilities. It is unfortunate that some people have chosen to get involved, but you know, that will always happen, and social media amplifies the fools even more, and that's an unfortunate byproduct of having social media, which in many cases is a wonderful thing, but it's also a wicked and a dangerous thing. I just implore the public to listen to the facts, wait for the facts, because we're very impatient now as a society because of social media.
We want
we're very impatient. We need to allow the process to work itself out, to get us to the point where we can have that confidence again in the processes that we all rely on to stay safe in our communities. Because if we don't have the police or we don't have the criminal justice system, then we have anarchy.
I mean, obviously, one officer has been suspended, right? But it took a little while for that to happen. And now, do you feel that the police should have been moved a little faster?
Yeah, but we don't know that it took a little while. It took a little while for us to be told, but we don't know that it took a little while for that to happen, because we don't have the facts. So obviously, when internal processes are happening, it's between the force and the individual officer, and the force would be very foolish indeed to tell the press or social media before they tell the person. And also, if you don't...
Laws of justice,
Exactly. But also, if you don't follow the process appropriately, then the whole process can be called into disrepute and into question, and that could then mean that member of staff doesn't face the justice that they're supposed to. So the public has to be patient and have trust in the process. So let's wait to see what happens, and then hopefully that trust and confidence will be restored.
Now, obviously, political leaders like yourself and others have a huge role to play. And we've seen what Lee Anderson's role has been. He is stoking the fires of hate. Somebody was telling me, I don't know whether it's true or not, and you know, we want to verify this if we can, that since some of these comments that he has made, hate crime in his particular constituency actually risen. So I don't know whether it's true or not, as I say, so I didn't make it absolutely clear. This is anecdotal information that somebody presented to me, that they feel that after his comments, the way he has behaved, his extreme right-wing views seems to have given oxygen and support to those that way inclined in his constituency, and people of colour are now facing the wrath of those right-wing, as you say, fools and idiots that they have in those communities. Now, we saw the previous government, where Priti Patel, when she was Home Secretary, Swera Braverman, particularly sort of rolled back some of the wins around equality and diversity. They made comments which were saying we don't need this anymore. Do you think that was, well, I know it was damaging to us. Did you feel that they damaged some of those successes we've had over 30, 40 years of fighting for justice and equality in this country?
Absolutely. And I think their tactic was all about demonising people who they felt a majority of people in the UK wanted to demonise. They othered black people, and when I say black, I mean all people who face people of colour.
I use the term black. I've always used the term black
because
to
it's
describe,
it's a political term, and we know that this is the demonisation of black people is political, and so we have to stand together as black and brown people. We have to stand together and fight this fight together, because if you go down, I go down, and vice versa. We have to stand tall together and fight together. So I think they believed that a big enough segment of the British public would respond to this racist rhetoric, and they would end up back in power. But actually, the vast majority of British public are not racist. The vast majority of the British public want peace and harmony in their community. They are welcoming of people from other faiths, other countries, and that is why, you know, Britain is the country where I want to live. West Yorkshire is the county where I am happy to live, and I think that we have to stand up together as black people and our white allies and tell racists, tell these people on the right who want to cause the mayhem that they want to cause, that they're not going to succeed. And when enough of us stand together and we shout loud enough, we will overcome the right-wing hatred that is attempting to overcome us.
I'm sure, and that is a very important message that Allison has given us, and I totally and 120% support her. I think we are being divided as a communities for a very long time. No, we have been divided. And I think if you look at the history of race in this country, from the 60s and from the 50s and early 60s, the African Caribbean community from the South Asian community were all working together as a collective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and then over the years, it's become black, Asian, you know, etc., etc. But in terms of political fighting, we need to work together as a collective community, because otherwise, as Allison says, and I totally agree with her, we'll be divided so much that we won't even know when one of them has been completely knocked down.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely important in political terms that we do work together as all communities of colour. Now, obviously, you know, people like Lee Anderson and to a certain extent Nigel Farage and people on the right are pandering to those people that you just mentioned, that who want to sort of try and get into positions of power on the backs of people, you know, who are being hated by a very small minority. As Allison said, we live in an amazingly beautiful country where democracy is the fundamental core part of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, you know, people like Allison and others are in the position that they're in, where they can make people's lives different. Now, moving forward, I mean, I know you probably may not be able to make a comment. How do you see this situation in Greater Manchester Police being rectified? That sort of, I know Andy, as I say, Andy Burnham, we have a lot of time for him. He's a wonderful guy, in my opinion. He should have been the leader of the Labour Party, but that's a different issue at the moment. But how do you see, the task in front of him is enormous, isn't it? Because once something has been broken, it's not easy to fix it back together. What are the things that you think he might have to do in order to try and build that confidence again? As I say, losing confidence, trust and confidence is an enormous task.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue for all of us. After the murder of Sarah Everard, trust and confidence amongst women and girls in policing nationally was broken. And what we need is an acknowledgement of the harm that's been caused, the root cause of that harm, and a commitment from the top to do something differently. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be in Greater Manchester. I suspect I might know, but I don't know it. So I won't, I won't speculate.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that the mayor of Greater Manchester, like the mayor of West Yorkshire, we need to be listening to our communities. We need to act in their best interest. We need to show them that their voices matter to us and that we deliver when we make promises. We need to hold the police to account for their actions, and we need to make sure that that communication with the public that we serve is always open, honest, clear, and when things go wrong, as they will in any society, things will go wrong, that the proper processes that have been put in place to see that justice is done are followed to the letter of the law, and that we hold all those people who are, part of that system to account for the delivery of justice.
Do you feel that in your group of people, the Associated Police Crime Commission, the APCC, and the National NPCC, that you have that leadership at the moment? That
that's a really good question.
Because obviously you are one of 43.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel that there's traction in that group to try and address some of these core fundamental issues about disconnect between the police and the communities in certain areas?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I would say here in West Yorkshire, absolutely, John Robbins is really open about the structural discrimination that he calls it, and is passionate about delivery of the police race action plan, and there's lots and lots of great stuff happening here in West Yorkshire. I think there are some great chief constables who have actually named the racism that exists in their force. I'm thinking particularly about Avon and Somerset, the chief constable there, Sarah Crew I think she's called, the Police Scotland, Joe, the chief constable there, but there are lots of other chief constables who do not acknowledge the problem, will not acknowledge the problem, and they are part of the problem as far as I can see. So what we
What
need...
about colleagues on the APCC? I mean,
so
are they
you would be surprised actually. I mean, obviously we've got a lot more Labour colleagues than we had previously, but you would be surprised if I said to you that many of my colleagues on the APCC, cross-party, are very supportive of the Police Race Action Plan and the Violence Against Women and Girl agenda. They are supportive of equality, diversity and inclusion. Now, how that manifests itself might be slightly different in different forces, but
yes.
Actually, I've not met many. There are one or two who will remain nameless. I have not met many people in the APCC who have denied that the problem exists and are committed to do something about it.
That's good news.
I have to say that I've been pleasantly
We've got another phone call coming in.
Surprised.
So
yeah.
We've got another phone call coming in. So we've got very little time left. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you tell me who you are and where you're calling from, please?
Chaudhry Ashraf from Manchester.
Chaudhry Ashraf Sahab, how are you?
How are you? I'm good, and nice to see this lady tonight. And I had a very bad time in all my life in Britain. I grew up in the 80s. Yeah, as racism and everything. But I think we all have to put down, get more people in, get more ethnic people in the police.
Into the police service.
Everything. Like instead I've seen on a airport in Manchester. But the thing is, somebody who have a very educated man and be in policing service is harsh on them as well. It's no, you suspend them or anything, but you need to do a test on them, I think. If they are racist in, like, nowadays is a very forward, like you have a test on the machine. If the guy goes on the machine, if he's a racist guy, you should not be in the police. I think they have to test every individual people in the policing. If he's a racist guy, should not in a police and run this country. But I think because we had all this back in 80s, 70s, 90s, and I love to put this question to my lovely
Allison,
to do this,
Okay, Allison, I have a very important point.
Put on, get more people in, like ethnic people in the policing or anything, like these people are leaders, they need to do it.
Chaudhry Sahab, I'm going to have to stop you because we only got 1 minute, 1.5 minutes left.
I know,
I agree, I 100% agree with you. And Allison, on my previous program, did say...
She's good, she's done a lovely work for our community.
Thank you, Chaudhry Sahab. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know on my previous program, when she has been here, one of the pleas she made on TV was, I would like to see more people come forward to join the police service. And that is something that she has always said. And I agree that that is something that we need to do as well. And more people join the police service, because if you change the police service with people who can inform the police and how to police communities, we'll probably see better outcomes. But
and we've had some success, I should say. That
I know you have.
10%. It's not enough, but when we started it was 6.5%. It's now 10% of police officers are from a black minority ethnic background. That's because of the Uplift programme, of course. And we, for 3 years running, we had a big positive action programme, and we had 18% of all new recruits were from a black minority ethnic background.
Excellent.
So we put our money where our mouth was, but we need to do more, because representation is so important in the force and to our communities.
I agree, and I think that is something that we need to applaud the work that Allison and her colleagues have been doing, that we're seeing the change taking place within West Yorkshire. I'm sure that will be taking place in other parts of the service as well. So thank you very much, Allison. Thank you for coming. I know you're a very, very busy lady, spending so much time with me today. I hope you found this program interesting. These are issues that challenge us on a day-to-day basis. Sorry, I'm just... Are we going to go for a break again? Sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I'm rushing ahead of myself. So Chaudhry Sahib, you can come back on again after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.